Hello number generators and dwarves, Strategist here, and for this video we are going to be discussing the Minecart system, or more importantly, what the hell a ramp is, or how to use a ramp. So for this video I have created and tested once a little tiny minecart track that I think will handle how the basics of minecarts and hauling. As we can see here, we have already done what any good dwarven project should do, and we've already caused a death. So I think we have this pretty much set up. As you can see here, before I go into further detail about what it actually is, we have two tracks here. These are two separate tracks. We have a U around the outside, and we have a loop on the inside. Though, let me tell you what, this loop is never going to finish. So, if you hit H, you get the hauling route. That's going to be key to making minecarts work. That's very important to know. But before we get to that, and what you do in the hauling route, B with a capital C gets you to the construction system, and at the bottom of it you have track and track stop. You can engrave tracks and track stops, but if you're not too familiar with what you're doing, I would suggest just constructing one. It's a lot easier to fix what you've done if you're able to sit there piece by piece and order it exactly and see what's going on. Though it will be simpler once you know what you're doing to simply engrave it into the stone ground if you can. So when you're doing tracks, an important thing to realize is that you're always asking, where am I coming from? Where am I going to? That's very, very important to note. At the very top, you see track north, south, east, and west. These are all just their ends. They don't go anywhere. This is a track that comes from and or goes to the north, the south, the east, and the west. Then you start getting these weird names where it'll say track in S. That's north to south. There is no such thing as south to north. It's the exact same track. So sometimes what you think you're doing, you may need to invert what you are thinking is going on. Northeast is any track that goes both to the north and to the east. It's the lower left corner, as you can see in that little icon. So you might be drawing a track from the east saying, oh, I need to go north. There is no such thing as east to north. That is northeast. It would take up way too many slots to have it do multiple things in that regard. That's really it for tracks. There's this whole thing down here where you start having track ramp northwest. That's just a northwest track that also happens to be trying to go across Z levels on a ramp. It's far easier just to do ramps in a straight line east to west, north to south, but there's no reason or going from east and going north. But that, or actually I shouldn't say not coming from east going north. I'm going to prove why there can be issues with that. But it's simpler just to do the straight north south and east west, but if you want to, you can do the other directions. If you're having issues though, just simplify your track. Do turns and complicated nonsense on one Z level, have it go across Z levels in a very simple system, and then go back to doing your crazy nonsense. There are some weird choices where we have north, east, west. If you look at it, that's a T-junction. Basically, it's just about the eyeballs at this point. That's a T-junction. It goes north, east, and west. You can see we have north, south, east, west. That has a weird, really weird symbol here. That's just an intersection. Like, literally just, when you were putting down a track, all you were doing is this square has a track. And the specificity of what is over here is at what way does this connect to another square near it. That's it. That's all it takes for tracks. Track stops, while they can be built wherever, just wherever, they only really genuinely work in terms of a track if they are built on a track. You cannot build a track that connects up and only have a track stop here. The track stop has to be on a track because the track needs to connect a track for the cart to move. A track stop can work perfectly on its own without a track if you're making a quantum stockpile that's only 1 square big. But I want to make this be known, track stops work on their own, but tracks need to be connected to a track to work with a track stop if you're trying to get a route to work. So in this case, what I have built, let's see if it will show it. I built a track that only connected to the east, an east-west, a ramp east-west, which it might not show the east-west, it does. A ramp east-west, 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 southwest, north-south, northwest, so on and so forth. It goes all the way around. Very simple. For the inner track, I have done crazy nonsense and created impulse tracks. And again, track stop is on a north-south track for this to work. So up here, same thing going all the way around. And then we get upward tracks northwest. So each of these, it's hidden by the fact that it looks like a ramp, but it is a lower right corner. Build construction, track northwest. These are all this type of track with a ramp built in. As I discussed in the last video, ramps are this semi always updating presence where if there's a wall by it, it treats its high point as being against that wall. This is an important thing to be aware of because you're not going to be able to specify what the ramp is doing otherwise. So for the top thing, you have a route. I hit R to create a new route and I created a new stop. I went over each of the minecart, the track stops and hit S to create a new stop. On the top stop, right now it says push east immediately, push east in 14 days, push east in 28 days. And these are just different conditions. If you're just wanting them to mostly go, or you're just needing, like you're just needing them to do something, you can set it to just be, hey, always. If there's something here, go always. The key though, is when you want it to load. I had to go from here and hit S to take from bar block stockpile, S for stockpile. A lot of people would just stop there, and this is where you get an issue. You always, and I mean always, regardless of the stockpile, have to hit enter and then manually activate what you want. If I remove that and say, all right, I want a stockpile link, or actually I think now it's gonna be active just because that's the way it was previously, just to make me look a fool. Where's the other stockpile? Slightly odd situation I put myself in. I didn't think it would maintain the information. Stockpile link? Yep. So the other side, because I didn't have it previously, didn't maintain that information. Whenever you first put in a stockpile link, I guess, it does not know what you are wanting. But apparently it does remember after the fact, which is good. And then, so you've created your route, you've created your stops. You need to make sure to hit V and assign a minecart to it. However, there could be issues. You could be like, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. It won't go. It keeps saying set dir/connect track. I put it on a track. I don't understand. And you're going to have an issue until this gets sorted. All it is it's saying that your instructions there don't correlate with the track that makes sense. The track stop at this location can only go east. So if I have a direction that does not say east, it's going to be very, very angry. Once I set it to east, you get rid of your exclamation marks that you notice at the beginning that causes issues. It's just telling you you need to set this correctly. Now, for this top one, I told it to push east basically immediately. And we'll notice he's going to push it east. He's going to load it up first, and other dwarves will come and load it. But when they push it, we're going to have an issue. By the way this is set up does cause a quantum stockpile. That's why it looks like they're grabbing a bunch of blocks from one square. We'll discuss that when it is finished. So once they load it up, and it takes a few blocks, probably should have preloaded this minecart, he pushes it. Now, it's not that long of a track. It's not that long of a track. He has pushed it, it's gone down a ramp, it's gone around, and it's coming up to the left. Now I'm gonna do this step by step. Once it gets over here, stop moving, and it went back. Even if your track is complete and everything the game tells you that you are fine, your cart might not have momentum in a certain part of the track to go up a hill. Pushing is the easiest thing. Pushing, when you look at these, you have three choices. You have push, ride, and guide. These are labeled slightly incorrectly and might be confusing. Push should be probably labeled as kick. Your dwarf gives it a sturdy kick and goes on his way. Ride, your dwarf gets a running start, hops into it, and rides in it as it goes. For momentum's sake, this is essentially the same as if he just gave it a kick, except your dwarf is also in the minecart at that time. This can be possibly used if you want to do dwarfy transportation systems. I would not suggest this. If you cause issues, you're likely to kill the dwarf. And even if you don't, there's no guarantee that the dwarf will do what you want him to do on the other side. I personally distrust the ride option. Then you have guide. Guide is what a lot of you probably think push is. It's where the dwarf sits there and slowly pushes it along the track. This is the slowest method. However, this also guarantees that you don't have a momentum issue if you have a part where you are going uphill. So I'm going to reset this top one to guide, because this cart is now going to, and it's got momentum. It's got enough to keep bouncing off the walls, but it's never going to go up with that track that I built at that current momentum. So now that it has failed, it's no longer moving. One of the stops, I believe the second one's going to update saying, hey, I never got my cart. Please bring me my cart. So a dwarf will pick up the cart and slowly bring it to the next stop it needs to be. Now he was set to guide. That's why he's slowly walking it back. And once it is up, it is now in place. So this is what's happening. When you see that there's a 0% V, it's telling you where in that particular route a vehicle is and how loaded it is. So stop one, I have set to in 1 week, push no matter what. In 2 weeks, push no matter what. This should have been at 50, but I changed some things pre the recording. So normally it is push in a month no matter what, push in 2 weeks if you're at least half full, push immediately if you are full. These three are defaulted, and I think they default to push. You might need to set them to guide. If everything looks like it's going well, but your minecart is never finishing it, it's because somewhere you're losing momentum and it's not able to finish a track. The easiest thing to guarantee that it works is just guide. Now, for safety's sake, I'm actually going to get rid of all of this because I don't want people running over. This is what killed the engineer last time. Now, this bottom one, this next route, is a complete route. If the track was safe, this would be a complete route. You can make there only be 1 point, as long as the minecart can go from itself to all the points. You're not going to get exclamation marks. You're not going to get errors. It's all going to be generally good. So it says. This is the exact opposite problem, where now if you have a system that's not really set up, it's not going to work. I'm going to set this to guide. I'm going to say guide north immediately. Always push north. And we'll see the dwarf come down here and he touches it. And they just rub. They love rubbing that minecart all the time. Here's the problem. The reason why he's rubbing is because he's doing exactly what he needs to do. The way it is set up is they must go to the next stop. Pushing doesn't really pay attention to this. Pushing says, hey, give it a kick in that direction. I don't care what happens after that. Guide is saying, please manually bring it from this stop to the next stop in line. Please do this for me. When you are doing a guide and it just looks like they're rubbing it, that's because that's the only stop. They're bringing it from stop 1 to stop 1. So the dwarf literally comes over, grabs it and goes, I'm at stop 1. Where do I need to go? Stop 1. Where am I? Stop 1. Job well done. Thank you, me. Pat on the back. Booze all around. If you see your dwarf constantly rubbing the minecart, you might want to check to make sure you even have a second stop in that line. Even if there is a second track stop, he's not likely to push it if you don't have it set up in this hauling route. And now we get to the physics portion of this, which is somewhat entertaining and or going to kill your dwarves. So as I said, push means, hey, just give that guy a good old shove. I don't care what happens to it. So he's going to come back and he's going to push it. Now we have an issue here, which is the minecart in a square only pays attention to what the mine track in its square tells it to do. Where it currently is says, hey, go west and go north. The track to the north said, go north and go south. Momentum happened to be carrying it in that right direction. So he's going to go from east to the next one. And this one says, hey, you are able to go west. Fan-freaking-tastic. So it dumps him to the west. And now we have an issue where you notice the minecart is blinking. Now, at this point, we have switched the minecart to an entity. And part of the problem is, or actually, it might not be an entity yet. It might be a little too soon. I apologize. We are on a ramp. This is our issue. We did not connect to this. If you recall from my last video, I mentioned how ramps are always trying to reach the higher Z level. A ramp is a ramp, and it always connects to the wall next to it. So this is a north to west curve, and the ramp is always trying to point up. In this case, because the wall's to the north, the ramp is dragging momentum and sending it west because of the way gravity works in physics. We were already having a momentum to the west, so this ramp, like the minecart just said, hey, I'm now in this square. What am I doing in this square? Physics says, well, if you're in this square, you're going to be going to the west because gravity says go west. The minecart goes, all right, fantastic. I'm already going west. Please bring me to the west. The game says, all right, but according to physics, you're going to be going faster. Minecart says, I don't care. I was pushed. So we do another update or two, and now it's gone over, and it wasn't connected again. But that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because we're already in this square. The last square said to come to this square. This square says, hey, do you have a place to go? It says, sure. I'm a ramp. Are you going west? Minecart says, I'm going west. He goes, no problem. I'll add to your momentum. So as I update, I'm having to hit the one-step key a lot less per update. And then we get here. Now, finally, this is technically correct. This last set here, that one brought it here. The last impulse ramp brought it here. And this ramp says, hey, what are you doing? Minecart says, I've got a momentum of some gigantic unnecessary number. Ramp goes, no problem. I'm pointing to a wall to the west. Which way are you going? Minecart says, I'm looking west. He goes, no problem. I'll bring you there, buddy. And it brings him to the next square. Then he updates and he hits this point, and this is where we have an issue. Finally, we have an issue. We have built up a ton of momentum. This square says, where are you coming from? He goes, I'm coming from the east. I'm supposed to be here. This square says, guess what, buddy? You're here. Fantastic. Where are you going? Minecart says, I'm going west. Track here says, uh-oh, we got a problem. I'm going north. Minecart says, I don't have to play by your rules, and shoots west. Actually, I don't even know where that minecart is right now. I think I just lost it. Yep. And shoots west. We already had some upwards momentum, so now we are going flying. We are moving west, but man, are we high doing this. I just want to see how high this goes. I think it just went down one. So it is 147. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It had gone up 4 or 5 Z levels because the momentum that I did with no power source, nothing other than a physics exploit and ramps that aren't connected to the track properly. This is now going to go flying a rather large distance. It stops because it finally hit a wall. Yes, The one time I tested it, there was an engineer right here, and he died immediately because he took it to the head. Just, actually, I wonder, oh, didn't even take it to the head. I'm sorry. Hit him in the stomach so much his stomach just exploded. So, doesn't take much to generate some momentum, and it can be lethal. Now, how many impulse ramps do you need to pull that off, though? So before I said push north, I'm going to tell it to push south. We're going to have to wait for someone to drag the cart back over and fix it in location. And once it's here, we're going to see that we have a little bit of an ish. Waiting for him to come back, and he's going to push it. This is all it really takes. The only reason why earlier this minecart from the first hauling route didn't go up is because I built plenty of track. But this time, we have west going down to one that says you can go east, one that takes from the east and points north, but there's no track. Is that enough? Yes, that is more than enough to get that cart to go up a hill. One going to a push momentum plus a reinforcement from one hill is enough to go up a hill. It's just how close it is. And not only is it up there, but this too has gained flight. It's not going to go up a Z level because it didn't have enough momentum to launch it in the air. But since there was no track there, it was off the ramp. It said, hey, is there a ramp here? The game said there's no ramp here, or there's no track here. What are you doing? Minecart says, I got X amount of momentum. Game says, all right, have fun, and lets it go flying. This is the key. This is the ultimate key to how a lot of this works. If you're having an issue with your minecarts, is it's more than likely going to be on different Z levels. If it's not going with a push, or if it's not reaching it with a push, you're losing momentum. If they're not moving it when you told them to guide, you need to go to the hauling route and see what's going on with your stops. They need to know where to bring it to. If people are dying somewhere in there, you might want to see if you're not generating too much momentum for what you're doing. Because really, it only takes one down ramp and one up ramp to send a minecart flying. And if you have too many down ramps or incorrect down ramps, it doesn't matter if you're going across Z levels. All you need is that down ramp. You'll be building momentum and can, in one shot, kill a dwarf. That is all we're going to be talking about for this video, because I'm wanting to break it up, keep it in bite-sized chunks. If you found this educational, please give a thumbs up. If you found me educational or entertaining, please give that channel a subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.